Cyberpunk 2077 launched in December 2020, and it was nothing short of a disaster. The hype surrounding the game was higher than Bob Marley, with players expecting a revolutionary open-world RPG that would set a new bar. However, within the first week, it all fell apart. Major bugs plagued the experience, halting progression for most people, visual glitches made the game borderline unplayable at times, and the Xbox One and PS4 versions looked so bad to the PC version, they felt like entirely different games. Although some bugs did see people getting out of wheelchairs to beat you up, people morphing into tables, so you did get a little bit of a laugh for your $60. The situation was so dire that just 8 days after release, Sony made the decision to pull Cyberpunk from the PlayStation Store, which is almost unheard of. The only other game in recent memory this has happened to was 2013 Ash's cricket game, which was also pretty bad. Fast forward to today, and Cyberpunk is celebrated as a testament to CD Projekt Red's dedication. The Steam reviews have finally hit overwhelmingly positive. After years of fixes, patches, and improvements, many consider it one of the best open-world RPGs on the market. The release of the Phantom Liberty DLC and the massive overhaul in version 2.0 completely revitalized the game, shifting the public reception in a way that very few games are able to do. So, what did I do? Me. I spent the last few weeks replaying Cyberpunk for the first time since launch, so that in today's video we can dive into why Cyberpunk became one of the most disappointing launches in gaming history, and then looking at how CD Projekt Red redeemed themselves. And we're going to look at how they regained the trust of all of their fans. Also, thanks to the sponsor of this video, me and my wallet. CDPR, or CD Projekt Red, not going to say that every time, so CDPR has a reputation that precedes them. The Witcher franchise is critically acclaimed, and one of the main reasons behind the absolutely massive hype behind Cyberpunk. Well, that, and they brought Keanu Reeves on stage for the announcement, and he was breathtaking.
You're breathtaking!
That only hyped the game up more after that meme went absolutely viral. But the mark that CDPR left on the gaming industry with the release of Witcher 3 was never forgotten. Even gamers who didn't play Witcher 3 at all, and there aren't many of them, know that CDPR is a developer that takes extreme care with their games. I mean, Cyberpunk was announced back in 2012. They had a pretty insane development window, which is why when it launched in the state it did, many people were caught off guard. This was a far cry, more like Ubisoft, from the CDPR that people came to know and love. Cyberpunk overpromised and underdelivered. During the E3 press conferences, Cyberpunk promised to be a living, breathing night city, full of player-made choices that would affect the world around them. Now, this was a big claim. Cyberpunk promised to be the RPG game with a level of detail that no one had ever seen before. So of course gamers were excited. CDPR's overpromising was their demise. When the game was in the hands of reviewers, they were given a much more stable copy of the PC game, but most importantly, they were forbidden from showing any of their own gameplay. SkillUp, as shown in his tweet here, was not impressed by that fact. CDPR also refused to provide outlets with any console codes, meaning until the launch of the console version of the game, it was completely shrouded in mystery. No one even knew what it looked like. And behind that shroud, a ton of tech issues. I mean, look at this. Even if the expectations were somewhat realistic, they still would have been completely let down. And that's not only the fault of all the tech issues, but the fact of CDPR doubling down on marketing materials. These marketing materials got gamers excited. And the ode proves true. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. And Cyberpunk fell. Once gamers had the support of the game reviewers saying the game was stable and free of game-breaking bugs, the hype reached an insane level just one day before the launch. And when it did launch, it fell harder than me on roller skates. It's December 10, 2020, and after months of hype, you're finally ready to dive into Cyberpunk. But instead of the groundbreaking RPG, CD Projekt Santa delivered coal. Players quickly discovered that the day one build of the game was far from the version reviewers must have played. Media outlets that gave stellar scores were accused of misleading fans. Metacritic gave it a 91 out of 100. Many dismissed this as a sham or they'd just been bribed. This next-gen RPG had more bugs than Bug's Life. For last-gen console players, the experience was catastrophic. On PS4 and Xbox One, Cyberpunk suffered from graphical glitches, sub-20 frame rates, and constant crashes. This is footage from IGN showing that textures failing to load, the game freezing, it was basically unplayable. The PS5 and Xbox Series X versions fared better, but there were still crashes and bugs. Even PC players were having issues. Those with high-end rigs could enjoy a more stable experience, but during COVID times, that's like a $4,000 graphics card. Mid-range setups face the same texture bugs, stuttering, and crashes across all platforms. Your PC's not better than my console now. Cyberpunk was simply not ready to be shipped, and the forced 5-day work weeks that CDPR developers had to endure simply overworked the devs. The game just needed to be delayed one more time. These bugs did range from hilarious to the game breaking, NPCs morphing into furniture, cops teleporting to crimes instantly, even if you were on top of a skyscraper, while other bugs completely blocked quest progressions, requiring you to reload an old save. And if you're anything like me, that save would have been hours ago. Any sense of immersion was shattered, and then came the backlash. Sony pulled the game from the PlayStation Store, issued refunds, and that just left gamers and critics frozen, like the PS4 version of the game. The fallout was devastating. Metacritic's user score plummeted to a 34 out of 100s, and sales tanked. Well, half the players couldn't even buy the game anymore, and that was right before the holiday season. Internally, CDPR scrambled to contain the damage, but the launch had already cemented Cyberpunk as one of the gaming's biggest disasters. Before we talk about Cyberpunk's redemption arc, we're going to do a very quick segment on the controversies surrounding CDPR right before the launch, and the fallout from the launch. Let's do it. Leading up to the launch, it was reported that shareholders didn't want Cyberpunk delayed again. Originally, the game was slated for an April release. God help us if that happened. It was then pushed back to September, actually right around my birthday, before finally being pushed back to December 10 of 2020. Leading up to this, it was reported that all CDPR employees were working 6-day work weeks. You can take away my joy, but leave my weekends alone, sir. Following the devastation, morale of the developers dropped to the floor. Words thrown around by developers include devastating, hopeless, and heartbreaking. The joint CEO, Michael Nowakowski, this guy, him, said it was one of the worst moments of his life. Now you might be sitting watching this video, wow, what an overreaction. But CDPR's future was genuinely threatened by the complete failure of Cyberpunk. CDPR's stock plummeted a whopping 30%. This stock drop, however, was the least of their concerns. They'd also completely lost the trust of shareholders, who started a class action lawsuit which was settled for about 20% of the max penalty. But most importantly, they had completely lost the trust of gaming communities. Gamers ditched Cyberpunk, and very few people brought it into 2021 with them, especially considering many people were still stuck inside. That was a massive deal. While CDPR had lost the trust of gamers and the developers' morale had never been lower, they were still determined to fix the game and produce a game that not only they promised, but the game they were proud to ship. CDPR took developer transparency and accountability to a whole new level, apologizing for the horrible launch, addressing players' concerns, and that they weren't dropping the game, pledging to turn everyone's trash into treasure. CDPR had a redemption arc that Marvel could only dream of. Come on, Phase 4. 5. I don't even know anymore. The developers went to their dungeons to work tirelessly to fix the dumpster fire they had just released, releasing patches, updates, free DLC that included new jobs, weapons, cars, apartments, just little gifts that your estranged father brings you every so often to win back your love. Things really started to turn around for CDPR with patch 1.5, which was the next-gen update that brought a ton of new features and extra weapons and apartments, letting you use the power of the PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. Nice too, considering you paid for it. The patch notes for patch 1.5 are almost longer than this essay. It featured better performance modes, ray trace shadows, massive improvements to combat AI, changes to the car braking system, along with a small Australian town worth of bugs being squished, and most importantly, they dropped support for Nvidia 700 series cards. Who the is running Cyberpunk with a 700 series card? What is your FPS? Are you playing at 480p? I have so many questions. Anyway, then came patch 2.0, the patch of patches, the God patch, Daddy Patcher. This patch dropped just a few days before Phantom Liberty came out, so that players got to experience the new and improved Cyberpunk before the DLC dropped, and they asked for more of your money. This brought a new perk tree overhaul, which simplified it. Instead of having a stupid amount of perks that did next to nothing, they have a fewer perks that actually do some pretty cool stuff. Overhauls to the cyberware systems, AI enhancement, traffic changes, a bunch of balance fixes. It essentially made the game not only playable, but it was actually fun to play. And you didn't need a master's degree just to understand some of the mechanics. This, combined with the fantastic reception of the Phantom Liberty DLC, really cemented Cyberpunk's redemption. Cyberpunk 2077 became the perfect example of everything wrong and everything right with AAA game development. They proved that no matter how good the games you made before are, you can still deliver a steaming pile of crap as your next game, and completely betray the community you had spent years building. But it also shows that no matter how badly a studio messes up, they're able to redeem themselves by dedicating all the time and resources they have into fixing the game. Cyberpunk 4 years later is a testament to CDPR's dedication to its players and dedication to its work. Cyberpunk's recent change to overwhelmingly positive is the absolute best possible outcome for CDPR since the disaster of 2020. And I'm not talking about COVID. It brings new hope for The Witcher 4, which will be the next game they release. But it also serves as a warning to all those other studios, that players will know if a game isn't the best work a studio can put out, and they won't hesitate to make it known. So, Cyberpunk 4 years later, buy it, go play it all night, ignore your family, responsibilities, and anything else you were supposed to do today. A massive shout out to all the patrons that support this channel. The bloopers from the recording will be on the Patreon, and it's only $2 or something to join.